I want you to imagine something with me for a second. You spend 40 years of your life, 40 years, waking up early, skipping vacations, driving the used car while your neighbor pulls into his driveway with a new BMW. You say no to dinners with friends. You tell yourself, next year. You max out your 401k, you invest, you save, you do everything right. And then, one day, you wake up. You're 65, you have $1.2 million in the bank, and you're sitting alone in a house that feels too quiet, staring at a body that can no longer do the things you wanted to do when you were 35. Here's the question nobody in personal finance wants you to ask. What if you save all this money and then you die? What if you spend 40 years deferring your life for a retirement that might not even look like what you're imagining? I was that person. My husband and I, we were the couple with the spreadsheet. We tracked every dollar, we optimized every expense. We had a 20-year projection that would make a financial planner weep with pride. And then my dad died at 62, 6 months before his retirement party, 6 months before he was finally going to start living. He had $800,000 in his 401k. He never got to spend a single dollar of it. So today, I'm going to tell you something that's going to make a lot of people in the finance industry very angry. I'm going to tell you why the traditional retirement plan is a trap, who profits from it, and most importantly, how to escape it without going broke. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why the save for 40 years and retire at 65 model is a scam designed to keep you working until your body gives out. You're going to see who profits from your discipline, and I'm going to show you a different framework, one that lets you live your life now while still building real security. This is not going to be another video telling you to cut out lattes and invest in the S&P 500. You've heard that 1,000 times. And it's not working because the problem isn't your spending. The problem is the entire premise. I need you to understand something about me. I was the girl with the 3-year financial plan. My husband and I, we had a net worth tracker we updated every single month. We said no to a trip to Italy with friends because it wasn't in the budget. We watched our friends go on adventures while we stayed home telling ourselves we'd do it when we retired. And then my dad died, and I realized something that shattered the entire framework I'd built my life around. All that money he saved, all those years he waited? For what? I'm not telling you this to be dramatic. I'm telling you this because I was in the cult. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and I want to pull you out before you wake up at 65 with $1 million and a life you forgot to live. Let me show you how you got here. The modern retirement system was invented in the 1970s. Before that, pensions existed, but the 401k, the thing that made you responsible for your own retirement, that was a product of the 1978 Revenue Act. And here's what's fascinating. It wasn't designed to help you, it was designed to shift risk from corporations to employees. But somewhere along the way, we internalized this idea. We started believing that the goal of life is to save enough money to stop working when you're old, that the purpose of your youth, your energy, your health, the best years of your life, is to be sacrificed for a future that might not even come, like what you're imagining. And the financial industry? They love this. Do you know how much money they make off your fear? Let me give you a number. The global asset management industry manages over $100 trillion, and a huge portion of that is retirement savings. Every time you put money into a 401k, someone is charging you a fee. Every time you buy an index fund, someone is making money off your discipline. They don't want you to retire at 45. They don't want you to take a sabbatical at 30. They want you to keep contributing for 40 years because that's how they get rich. Here's what they told you. Save 15% of your income, invest in low-cost index funds, let compound interest work its magic, and by 65, you'll have a comfortable retirement. Sounds reasonable, right? Here's what they didn't tell you. Number 1, According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances in 2023, the median retirement savings for Americans age 55 to 64 is $185,000, not $1 million, not even close. For the bottom 50% of households, it's under 50,000. So who's actually hitting these massive retirement numbers? The top 10%, the people who already had advantages to begin with. Number two, even if you do save $1 million, do you know what that gets you in retirement? Using the 4% rule, that's $40,000 a year. That's before taxes. That's if you don't have a major health crisis. That's if the market doesn't tank right when you retire. Number three, the average American life expectancy is 77. If you retire at 65, you have 12 years. 12 years to do everything you put off for 40 years. But here's the kicker. Those 12 years, they're not the same as your 30-year-old years. Your knees hurt, your energy is different, your friends are dealing with their own health issues. The adventures you dreamed about, they look different now. Let me take you to the graveyard, not of people who didn't save, but of people who saved too much, who saved at the expense of their lives. I have a friend. Let's call him Mark. Mark is 58. He's been saving for retirement since he was 22. He has $1.4 million in his 401k. He also has stage 4 prostate cancer. He was diagnosed 6 months ago. His doctors say he has maybe 2 years. He told me last week, I'd trade every dollar in that account for one more summer with my kids when they were little, but I was too busy working. That's the graveyard. It's not marked, you don't see it on the news, but it's filled with people who followed the rules and realized too late that the rules were designed by people who profit from your obedience. Here's another one. The Employee Benefit Research Institute found that the average retiree spends $4,000 to $8,000 a year on health care alone. That's $48,000 to $96,000 over a decade. And that's if you're healthy. If you need long-term care, the median annual cost of a private room in a nursing home is over $100,000. So let's do the math. You save $1 million, you get sick, you spend 10 years in a nursing home. You've just burned through your entire life's savings on care. Not on travel, not on grandkids, not on that dream you deferred. Let me show you who profits from your discipline. First, the companies you work for. They love a 401k match because it's cheaper than a pension. A pension is a guaranteed payout they have to fund. A 401k, they give you a few $1,000s a year, and the risk is all yours. Second, the financial services industry. Vanguard, Fidelity, BlackRock, they manage trillions in retirement assets. They charge you fees. Even a 0.5% fee on $500,000 is $2,500 a year. On $1 million, it's $5,000. That money goes straight to their bottom line. Third, the government. They incentivize retirement savings through tax-deferred accounts because it keeps money in the system. It keeps you working. It keeps you paying taxes. And when you finally withdraw that money in retirement, they tax you then. Here's the dirty secret nobody tells you. The tax advantage of a 401k is actually a tax deferral. You're not avoiding taxes, you're postponing them. And if tax rates go up by the time you retire, which, let's be honest, they probably will, you might end up paying more in taxes than you would have paid if you just took the money now and invested it differently. So what's the alternative? How do you escape without going broke? Here's what my husband and I figured out after my dad died. And I want to be clear, this is not don't save, this is save differently. Step 1, stop thinking about retirement as a destination. Start thinking about your life as a series of chapters. Instead of saving for 40 years to have a big block of time at the end, what if you took mini retirements? What if you worked for 3 years, then took 6 months off? What if you went part-time at 40 instead of full-time until 65? I know what you're thinking. I can't afford that. But let me ask you a question. Can you afford not to? Step 2, stop putting all your money in tax-deferred accounts. This is the controversial one. I'm going to say something that 99% of financial advisors will tell you is insane. Don't max out your 401k. I said it. Here's why. When all your money's locked up until you're 59 and a half, you lose flexibility. You can't take a sabbatical, you can't start a business, you can't take 6 months off to travel with your kids while they still want to travel with you. Instead, invest in a taxable brokerage account. Yes, you pay taxes now, but you can access that money whenever you want. You can use it to buy time when time matters most. Step 3, buy time, not things. Here's the pattern interrupt that changed everything for me. My husband and I used to ask, can we afford this? Now we ask, does this buy us time? A new car? That buys you a nicer commute. It doesn't buy you time. A smaller house with a paid-off mortgage? That buys you the ability to work less. Hiring a cleaner? That buys you 5 hours a week with your family. When you shift your framework from accumulating wealth to accumulating time, everything changes. You start making decisions that actually align with what you value, not what the financial industry tells you to value. Now, before I show you the most important step, the one that took us from being spreadsheet-obsessed savers to actually living our lives without blowing up our financial security, I need to show you what happens when you get this wrong. Because the graveyard isn't just for people who didn't save. It's also for people who saved perfectly and forgot to live. The ones who deferred joy, who said next year until there were no more years. But first, let me show you the framework that actually works, the one that lets you have both security and a life. Here's what we actually do now. I call it the time wealth framework. Level 1, baseline security. This is the money you never touch. 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account, enough to survive if everything falls apart. Level 2, flexibility fund. This is money in a taxable brokerage account. You invest it in low-cost index funds, you let it grow, but you can access it whenever you want. This is your buy time money. Level 3, life capital. This is the money you actually spend on experiences while you're young enough to enjoy them. Trips, time off, hiring help, investing in relationships. Here's the key. Most people try to go from 0 to level 3 without building levels 1 and 2. That's how you end up broke. But the traditional advice has you staying in level 1 forever, never reaching level 3 until you're 65. The escape route is building all 3 levels simultaneously. My husband and I, we still save, we still invest, but we also take the trip. We also say yes to the thing that scares us, because we learned the hard way that the future isn't guaranteed. Let me leave you with one more number. A 2022 study in the Journal of Aging and Social Policy found that nearly 40% of retirees said they wished they had retired earlier, not because they had more money, because they ran out of health, energy, and time. 40%. Almost half of the people who made it to retirement looked back and said, I waited too long. You don't have to be one of them. So here's what we covered today. We talked about how the traditional retirement plan was designed to benefit corporations and the financial industry, not you. We talked about the gap between the promise and the reality, that most people don't have nearly enough saved, and even if they do, the years they have left aren't what they imagined. We walked through the graveyard of the disciplined, the people who saved perfectly and realized too late they'd forgotten to live. We exposed who profits from your obedience, and then I gave you the escape route, the time wealth framework that lets you build security and a life at the same time. Here's what I want you to take away. You are not a retirement account. You are a human being with a limited number of years, months, days. And the people telling you to sacrifice your present for an uncertain future are not the ones who have to live with your regrets.